Hi there everyone, and welcome to my response video responding to Leo's presentation on speculative and dystopian literature. I was particularly excited when Professor Chang offered me the opportunity to switch my response date and sort of partner up with Leo over this process, as the prompt that was given to us to look at this week seemed extremely interesting to me. Just to provide anyone who hasn't seen the initial presentation with a little bit of context, Leo's presentation this week focused on the literary genre of speculative fiction, and particularly how it relates and conflicts with other subgenres and the general lens of dystopian literature when looking at the novel The Handmaid's Tale, written by the Canadian author Margaret Atwood in 1987. The specific merits of speculative fiction, by definition, as Leo discusses thoroughly in his presentation, are pretty hard to narrow down, as the genre truthfully encompasses any works that depict a reality other than our own, with elements that are impossible in our own real universe. I found this definition hard to understand at first, similarly seems to as Leo did, because I think that it's a little bit too broad and open-ended to really stand for much at the end of the day. However, I really like the distinction that Leo made between the genres of speculative fiction and many of its supposed subgenres, such as science fiction or fantasy, where he states that science fiction, on the whole, largely depicts impossible scenarios or impossible to invent technology and how that might affect the world, whereas speculative fiction is more focused on real-world elements that are realistically embalmed with higher emotional significance. Although I think this definition certainly hits the nail on the head for what we're discussing, I would like to possibly add my own twist to this definition, if I could, and provide maybe another layer to this discussion. In my experience with both The Handmaid's Tale and 1984, which I believe fits right alongside Margaret Atwood's novel as a true depiction of social speculation in fiction, the most seemingly outlandish and oppressive qualities of each society do not reflect a far-off future, but rather what would happen if human history ever chose to repeat itself. The themes of female oppression and sexual limitation are nothing new to both modern and ancient societies across the world, and there are many nations existing in the current moment that honestly rival the brutality of Gilead's treatment of its female citizens, and all of its citizens, for that matter. The surveillance scene in The Handmaid's Tale, evident when considering how easy it is to be tried for treason in Gilead, has limited personal freedoms for decades across a variety of different regimes, most notably perhaps through the Nazi secret police and Soviet systems of tyranny. Aspects of The Handmaid's Tale point to these same authoritarian systems, and perhaps the most striking example of this relationship comes when Margaret Atwood describes the hanging bodies of supposedly rebellious individuals, an action that has been burned into my memory through the countless examples I've seen of this happening to the slowest Jewish workers and those living in ghettos during the Holocaust, or similarly to those who protected oppressed individuals in Cambodia or were erased by Russian KGB agents during the Cold War. In this way, I think that the role of speculative fiction, at least to me, is to present a modern audience with what would happen if our own archaic and brutal ways reemerge within us, but this time fueled by modern technology and our advanced perceptions of reason. Science fiction, I think, does not concern itself with this pursuit for the most part, and depicts more often than not events that pose no real or existential threat to their current generation, or even one that may still be yet to come. Even dystopian literature, from my personal experience and from looking into examples of this work that I haven't read, such as Revolutionary Road or Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, seems to me to almost focus more on the effect environmental or social catastrophes have on one's inner psyche, as opposed to how it affects a society as a whole. The themes of restricting women's rights and the consequences of religious overstep are not just terrifying hypotheticals, as many of the rights and privileges withheld from women in Gilead were similarly exempt in, let's say, American women a mere few decades ago. The government of Gilead's attempts to glorify the supposed utopia they're living in to visiting tourists, as well, sounds scarily similar to the plastic storefronts and planted actors that tourists see on their guided tours through North Korea, all placed there as a front to disguise the true reality facing citizens that actually live there. Even the names that Leo goes over, such as Offred, standing for Of Fred, who's the protagonist's husband, strike a chord with me when remembering some of the English books I've covered in prior classes, such as Little Women or Emma, where women were legally considered property of their husbands or fathers. Ultimately, I think the role of speculative fiction is actually the same as that of Little Red Riding Hood or Hansel and Gretel when they were released, as they warn their readers of events that could befall them if they or someone around them misstepped or strayed outside socially accepted moral guidelines. I hope that analogy comes across as I hoped it would, because I realize that it is a little bit tenuous. All in all, though, I think that Leo's presentation was a great peek into the immensely complex worlds of dystopian and speculative fiction. And I can definitely say that watching his video made some of the reading of The Handmaid's Tale much more enjoyable, I think. I just wanted to thank Professor Chang and Leo again for being so understanding during these past few weeks, and I hope everyone enjoyed my response. I look forward to discussing with everyone in class soon, and yeah, thanks again.